Tons of news today. Let's start with this. It looks like AMD is going to finally unveil the RX 7800 XT and 7700 XT at Gamescom, sorry, not con, next week. And so, to be clear though, it's not completely official that that is what they will be revealing. However, this is a WCF Tech article. All my sources will be linked in the video description, but they are getting this information directly from Scott Herkelman on Twitter, who is, representing AMD. So this is official, at least that we will. Well, it says, please join the AMD Radeon team at Gamescom next week for our next major product announcement. So it would stand to reason that the next major product from AMD's Radeon team would be the heavily rumored RX 7800 XT and possibly also the 7700 XT. We have a whole bunch of rumors about these cards already. If I pop over to videocards.com, and again, all my links will be in the video description, they've tracked the various rumored and leaked specs of these cards and then put them in a nice table in line with the rest of the series. The 7800 XT at this point, we've already had like the official product page from Power Color's Red Devil already posted ahead of schedule, where it did confirm a lot of the specs already. The 7700 XT we know a little bit less about. What we don't know is the pricing, and I think pricing is going to be absolutely everything on these. Because if you actually look at the specs here, with the 7800 XT coming in at 60 compute units, cut down from 84 compute units on the 7900 XT, and then 16 gigabytes of VRAM, which I think is plenty. It is cut down from 20 on the 7900 XT, though. It's also coming down to a 256-bit memory bus and 19.5 gigabit per second memory. Again, these are all rumored and leaked specs, but it's pretty heavily expected to be these results. That is a significant step down from the 7900 XT. Which would indicate that the 7800 XT might not be much faster than a 6800 XT. We'll, of course, need reviews to confirm that. But if that's the case, you've been able to buy a 6800 XT for around $500 to $520 for quite a while now, at least in the United States. So I think if this card comes in, at that price point, it's just going to be basically what you could have already got on the 6800 XT for a long time now, but with, probably a little more energy efficient and have the newer AV1 encoder. It'll be a little bit of an update, but not really shake up the market in that $500 segment. But again, we'll have to see how it's priced. But AMD does seem to have a history of pricing products more than they should at launch to get kind of mediocre reviews on day one. And then the prices end up falling on the actual market a few months later, and then, it gets much more favorable coverage, but kind of misses that positive day one press. We'll have to see what happens with this. The 7700 XT we seem to know less about. There's pretty heavily confirmed leaks of a 12 gigabyte card on a 192-bit memory bus. But the more detailed specifics on this one are less locked in than what we know on the 7800 XT. So we'll have to see how that one goes. Again, how's it going to stack up against cards like the 6700 XT, which you can buy around $320 right now? We'll have to see. But again, hopefully we'll find out a lot more next week at Gamescom. The only other thing I could think that the next major product announcement would be could be something like FSR 3, but I don't feel like you would call that a product announcement from AMD Radeon. That feels more like a software or feature. So I think this is more heavily likely to be the GPUs themselves. Now, a lot of people are waiting on some FSR 3 news, so it would be cool if we got some of that as well, but no rumors pointing to that being the case. Now, another thing that I guess it could be is we have been seeing rumors of high-end RDNA 3 Navi 31 GPUs coming to the mobile lineup as well with some RX 7000M series. But I don't think this sounds like what we're probably going to be getting at Gamescom, but I did want to mention that we are seeing rumors of this as well from Golden Pig Upgrade being reported on here by WCCF Tech. Golden Pig Upgrade does get some leaks and rumors early and correct in the past. So saying the RX 7900 GRE, which I've reported on before, that's mostly a Chinese-only model, but can come to system integrators worldwide. Kind of an interesting card, but I've talked about it a bit in previous videos, saying it will be crammed into a laptop. It means that the Navi 31 core packaged in a compact 256-bit package will be stuffed into a notebook, and the actual specification may be higher than the GRE. So one of the interesting things about the 7900 GRE was it packaging the Navi 31 core into the 256-bit package, which, again, they're saying here could then fit into laptops. This seems like a pretty early rumor, though, so I don't think that this would be what we would be seeing from the next major product announcement that they're talking about for the Gamescom announcement. Now, also in the news has been not just finishing out the RDNA 3 lineup with the 7800 XT and 7700 XT, but we've also been seeing stuff about the next generation, RDNA 4, and rumors of the highest end chips being canceled and why that would be the case. Well, what we're seeing here is a concept render, not official from AMD, of the high-end RDNA 4 Navi 4X GPU. Now, what is this based on, and what are we seeing here? It seems like this render is largely based on something that we got from, this is not, yeah, this is what I was looking for. Something we got from, I think, Moore's Law is Dead. If you weren't sure it was from Moore's Law is Dead, I don't know, it's a little subtle there. But anyway, giving us some ideas of how they were planning on having active interposer dies and shader execution dies on top of that, multimedia and I/O dies placed on top. So anyway, again, not official from AMD, leaks and rumors, all of that, but taking a look at this kind of thing and then making a nice render out of it, you see how many chiplets are involved here. This does look like an extremely complicated GPU to get going. So if all of this is true, including the cancellation of these high-end parts being true, it does stand to reason to me that it's just because of the sheer complexity of this chiplet design, maybe just needing more time to bake and get done. It'll be interesting to see if AMD really is going this route, and when we will see that. Maybe if it's not RDNA 4, maybe we'll see RDNA 5 with some crazy chiplet design. I'm certainly interested to see what we get out of this. And again, I still think that if AMD is just going to stick to a monolithic, more mid-range chip, I think as long as it's priced right, that could still be pretty exciting. We'll have to see, what comes out of that. But that's still way down the line with the RDNA 4, Radeon 8000 lineup, which we're just not there yet. But speaking of leaks and rumors of the next generation of products, we have also been hearing about Nvidia's next-gen GeForce RTX 50 lineup to kind of rename the underlying chips a little bit. Now, what is this all about? And I'm not sure this means a whole lot to the end consumer, to be honest. But a lot of this comes from this videocards.com article where they noticed something on the chip hell forums talking about 23567 and then getting clarification from the prolific GPU hardware leaker Compite7 Kimmy, saying NVIDIA's next-gen GPU series will have GB 202, 203, 205, 206, and 207. You'll notice that it's skipping a 204 and also that it has a 205. That would be unusual because if you look at, again, the videocards.com article here has nicely summarized this. If you look at Ampere, which came out in 2020, and the Ada lineup, Ampere's the RTX 3000 series, and Ada is the RTX 4000 series. If you look at their naming of the actual GPUs, they had a 102, 103, 104, 106, 107. And again, we had that for Ada as well, 102, 103, 104, 106, 107. There's always been a 104, which apparently it's looking like there won't be a 104 for the next gen, but there will be a 205, but there is not a 5 on the previous generations. Now, what does this mean? Does this actually indicate that we have some kind of super high-end version that has a larger gap going down to it before you get to the 205? Or what? I mean, why would we get this change? It's really unclear what this means to the end consumer. So it's kind of interesting, I guess, but I'm not sure it really tells us all that much. Now, I was also searching for if we have any updates on Intel's next generation of GPUs, and the most recent thing I could find is Intel lists testing interposers for next-gen Xe2 Battlemage GPUs and Core Ultra Arrow Lake HX CPUs. This is coming again from videocards.com. So this is at least showing that they are moving forward with Battlemage. A while back, there had been all sorts of rumors about Intel canceling the whole thing and all that. Looks like they're moving forward. It looks like we see some info on their interposers they're looking at here. I don't feel like it tells us a whole lot interesting about their performance or anything like that. It does look like it could have a greater number of pins than the current Alchemist GPUs, but not sure there's a whole lot to make of this other than this coming out. It does seem to indicate that they are just moving forward, and I am excited to see what Intel is able to do with their next generation. I'm especially interested in how Intel seems more interested in taking on DLSS head on, a little more so than what we're seeing with FSR2, right? FSR2 is not an AI hardware accelerated, upscaling algorithm. And from an image quality perspective, later versions of XeSS seem to be producing, in my opinion, and in other people's testing, better image quality in a lot of cases than what we're getting from FSR2. And we're seeing an update to XeSS SDK with the XeSS 1.2 SDK being now available for game developers. And again, I like that XeSS, while it does, its best version is hardware accelerated specifically to Intel GPUs, it does have a supported version for over a DP4A fallback to Intel and Nvidia and AMD GPUs, which I think is a very good thing. And recently, when I was playing some games on my Steam Deck, like Remnant 2, I found the XeSS upscaling to look and perform a little bit better than what I was getting from the FSR2 upscaling available in the game. So I'm really interested with XeSS and where this all goes, and excited to see another version. Now, it does look like it's backwards compatible with XeSS 1.0 and 1.1, meaning that the DLL file could probably drop into some games with the older version, but it's the article here is saying that hasn't been confirmed at the time of writing, and I have not had a chance to play around with that yet myself. But that is interesting to look at. Now, this article goes on to mention that when XeSS was first announced, it was promised to be open source as well as cross-platform, and while we are getting good cross-platform results with the AMD and Nvidia support, the open source element of that has still yet to be delivered on, where we are seeing a closed Windows DLL library that can't be modified. And so until that's available, they still have yet to deliver on their open source promise, but at least they are delivering on a cross-platform promise, unlike DLSS, whereas FSR is both cross-platform and is open source. So anyway. Coming from AMD, though, we see them really trying to capitalize on their Starfield partnership. Now, it seems like a one-of-a-kind custom Starfield PC that looks absolutely incredible, coming from modder Mods by Ben. So this looks awesome. Now, what might be available to at least a few more people, although still seems to be limited to 500 units, is some versions of the 7900 XTX graphics card. It looks like it's the made by AMD cooler, but the actual, color and design scheme of it going to fit into the Starfield design, and it looks really cool. It looks like there's 500 of these graphics cards being made, It says 500 graphics cards and CPUs. There's also a 7800X3D CPU, but the CPU, you know, you don't really see that in your case, and so it looks like it's really just the packaging on the CPU that goes with the theme. Whereas the 7900 XTX card itself, you know, actually has this cooler design to go with it. Now, it's been unclear to me where you actually get these because I haven't seen them on sale exactly, and there's been some announcements of, I think, some of them being available as prizes you could win, but I think that's not the full 500 of them. So anyway, we'll have to see where exactly that goes. And just a reminder that if you are planning on buying Starfield, AMD does have the bundles going with their CPUs and GPUs. A whole bunch of their products are eligible for either the standard edition or premium edition of Starfield, so that could be definitely lending some value if you're looking to upgrade your CPU or GPU right now, and we're also planning on buying Starfield. Now, Nvidia seems to have fired back with their own game bundle with RTX 40 series GPUs, but they're bundling some Overwatch 2 Invasion Ultimate bundle, which I'm sure for some people who are very into Overwatch 2, this could be the better deal. But I think certainly for many people, I think Starfield at least is anticipated to be a more compelling IP here. Overwatch 2 can be recently noted for its Steam debut. You know, Blizzard finally putting something up on Steam and then getting met by very terrible reviews. So anyway, coming in the game bundle is permanent access to Overwatch 2 Invasion story missions, Invasion Premium Battle Pass plus 20 tier skips, 2,000 Overwatch coins, earnable Vigilante Sojourn Legendary Skin, Sojourn Hero Unlock, C455 Sharpshooter Cassidy Legendary Skin, and K2000 Blade Master Kiriko Legendary Skin. So if you are into Overwatch 2 and those sound interesting to you, perhaps, and you're looking to upgrade to an RTX 40 series GPU, that does add some value for you, if that is stuff you would be interested in. Now, in more CPU news, now the Threadrippers aren't, you know, my channel focuses mostly on gaming hardware, and Threadrippers really aren't designed for gaming, but it is still just interesting to see the benchmarks leak on this 7995WX, which is a 96-core CPU, and it's showing up to you know, that it could be 70% faster than the previous 5995WX Threadripper, giving absolutely crazy numbers. Now, this leak is a Geekbench multi-thread, multi-core performance number showing up here as 81,408, which is just kind of nuts, honestly. Anyway, here's some relevant comparison results in this WCCF Tech article if you're interested. So, for example, the 7950X, which is 16-core, 32-thread part, scores about 24,480 for context. So yeah, going up to 96 cores does give some pretty crazy results. However, for gaming, that's kind of pointless. Your game's not going to use that much, and you know, definitely overkill. So I'm not going to dwell too much on that. However, in other CPU news, we are seeing leaked benchmarks of the Intel Core i7 14700K. Now, it's looking like the 14 series is mostly going to be a refresh that doesn't appear to be very interesting from a gaming perspective. It's looking like the most exciting things about these will be additional efficiency cores on certain models. However, in gaming performance, that's not usually going to matter very much. It can get you, you know, like what we're seeing here, up to 20% faster performance than the 13700K, but that's in multi-threaded workloads, not likely to transfer into gaming performance. So what we're seeing here on this is a leak that's hiding what this is by calling it a 13700KS. Which is a little bit weird, but the screenshot here definitely shows that what we're looking at here is what we would expect to be the 14700K. They're just kind of hiding what it actually is on these leaks. When you get the comparison, but again, in single thread performance numbers, there's very little difference. And so in actual gaming performance, there's very little difference. It's looking like single-digit percentages difference in gaming performance. So basically, these could be an interesting upgrade for people who need the multi-threading result. And we do need to wait for final reviews and all of this, but early leaks point to just a few percent difference for single-threaded and therefore probably gaming performance. Now, in other Intel CPU news, we have seen the Intel Downfall issue in the news, and then the mitigations to fix it, dropping performance up to 39% in some tests. This is, again, it's certain workloads that are going to be hit harder than others, especially things relying on AVX2 and AVX512 workloads. I don't believe this should be majorly impacting your gaming performance, but there are a variety of tests that are showing, some smaller performance drops, some more major performance drops, with the mitigations to deal with the downfall security issue. Now, AMD was also hit by a similar problem with AMD's Inception, and the mitigations for that can apparently also lower performance of the CPUs in certain workloads as well. Again, my sources for this will be in the video description if you want to take a look at these specific workloads and all of that. Also, it looks like Intel's Arc GPUs, Arc Alchemist GPUs, also have a hidden security flaw. Now, this is being disclosed by Intel, and it doesn't appear to be classified as a high security risk. It's being classified as a medium security rating. And it looks like the potential security flaw could permit denial of service or information disclosures. Anyway, it doesn't seem like there is a firmware or software fix at this point, but Intel does say to reach out to Intel customer product support in your region for help if you're interested on that. Again, it looks like this is a vulnerability through local access, so I think a lot of people, I don't think would have to be super concerned about that. But anyway, we're also seeing exclusive images. This is the Lenovo Legion Go gaming handheld. So, in other words, basically the Steam Deck has just kicked off a whole bunch in this mobile gaming PC handheld space. Seems like a lot of people wanting to jump into that space. Lenovo, with their Legion Go, is showing some things off. What seems to be the biggest difference, what makes this stand out is the going with more of the detachable Joy-Con style of controllers on this. Versus a lot of the other designs like the Steam Deck, which are just, it's all bolted together, all of that. So if that's interesting to you, maybe keep your eye out for this. We don't have a lot of information about it other than I believe it's a 1080p 8-inch display, but I don't think we have details on the specifics of that. We can see a little bit of the USB ports and a micro SD slots and things like that, but anyway, we'll have to wait for a little more information on that one to see if it's something worth buying over things like the Steam Deck or ROG Ally. Now, let's get into a quick round of, hey, here's some more GPU coolers out. So Inno3D is launching their RTX 4070 Twin X2 with stealth cable management. So this is one of those ones we've seen talked about for a while now. It looks like these are getting officially announced now. Where the power cable is on the back side, and you can hide it with a back plate cover. There we go. That's detachable. So to offer some interesting cable management options for the GPU. It's looking like this is just the Twin X2 model that has that available at this point. Now, Gunner launches a special edition of the Arc A750 Photon for the 2022 Asian Games. Now, I was initially confused by, wait, 2022? Aren't we like most of the way through 2023? But apparently the next Asian Games, which are, I think similar to an Olympic style, like every 4 years type of thing, but, obviously focusing in the Asian region. Apparently the one coming out this year is called the 2022 Asian Games. I was a little confused by that, but anyway, apparently that is the one this year. And apparently they are also featuring some esports in the competitions, including Valorant, which seems to be featuring on the on some of the design here. You can see Valorant mentioned in the design. So anyway, kind of interesting to see that special edition out for that. We're also seeing Max Sun launching an RTX 4070 iCraft and Terminator cooler models. Kind of skipped through those way too fast. Sorry there. This is the iCraft OC, and this is the this is the iCraft OC, and then this white model, I believe, is the Terminator. Now, we're also seeing MSI launching a new version of the Ventus GPUs. This is the white version, so now explaining why the previous versions were called the black version, we now have the white version to contrast with it. So other than that, you know, basically more white models for people doing white builds is always nice to see. Now, moving on to a little bit of console news, which I cover a little bit, mostly focus on PC news on these. The PS5 Slim model has been shown off in a full video. Again, this is completely not official, but does seem to stack up with what we've seen from some other leaks, things like that. It's unclear to tell. You would have to know this person's exact hand size to know if this was much smaller. But we are seeing people like Kepler, who does leak a lot of especially AMD hardware stuff, saying that there's no surprise that there wouldn't be a real slim console this generation, because in the past, when we get the slim models of consoles that are a lot smaller, it's based on the underlying chips having a die shrink that makes them a lot smaller and more energy efficient. Kepler here saying that die shrinks are dead. There's nothing Microsoft or Sony can really do to reduce costs and power envelope. Now, somebody replies saying it would absolutely reduce power to do the die shrink, and Kepler's replying saying it's not that you couldn't do the die shrink, it's that it's not financially feasible. He's saying that die shrinking the Xbox PS5 SoC to 5 or 4 nanometer would cost $100+ million and result in no reduction in cost per transistor, so it's simply not worth it. So even though it, you know, could reduce power, the actual process of doing the die shrink and then moving to the more expensive process node would really just not be worth the results. Now, I can't verify if Kepler is correct on that $100+ million number, but that could, I think this is reasonable to explain why we're not getting maybe as big of a shrink, if that makes sense, or as small of a slim model as we've seen in mid-generation on previous generations. Now, some people are still interested in, are we going to be getting a Pro model? Because the latest games are looking to be difficult to run. For example, I'm seeing this headline that Lords of the Fallen, which is running on Unreal Engine 5, will be running at 1440p 30 or 1080p 60 FPS. However, if you actually read the direct quote, it looks like it might actually be a rendering resolution below that and then upscaled to those results if you read this the way I'm reading this, because this is a quote from the developer saying, on both consoles we offer performance and quality modes. The performance mode goes at 60 frames per second and 1080p resolution upscaled. So 1080p upscaled, so in other words, are we like 720p upscaled to 1080p to hit 60 frames per second? Which they're saying is kind of standard in the industry. And the quality mode is 1440p upscaled running at 30 FPS. Now, if they mean 1440p upscaled to a 4K output, that would be one thing. But if this is actually meaning a lower resolution upscaled to a 1440p output, that's less exciting. But that is what we've been seeing for a lot of the latest current gen only releases, is a lot of games running either without a 60 FPS mode or to hit 60 FPS, rendering at an extremely low internal resolution and then upscaled for the output. So I'm personally more interested to see if we get a Pro model than a Slim model, but we'll have to see what comes of it and all of that. And with that, we'll wrap up the video. Hopefully you guys found this useful and interesting. Hopefully next week we'll get a bunch of exciting news, or at least some news. We'll find out whether or not it's exciting about some new Radeon GPUs. And I hope all of you have an excellent day.